Today I'm going to guide you on how I made my tree logs. Tree logs are a great open concept toy for children. Near the end of the video though is where I'll show you different ways that you can utilize using them. There is so many different ideas you can branch off of. Yeah, I thought it was funny. There's also so much more you can do with these toys. They are fantastic for introducing new concepts such as counting, sizes, opposites, as well as for encouraging creativity such as engineering or building, architecture, etc. So let's get started. First, you'll need to get different cuts of wood. Try to get different sizes, shapes, and thicknesses with different leans. It just helps come up with more fun, creative ideas. You can also take the bark off by sanding the bark or even pulling it off if you get it green enough. But make sure to season your wood before you use it. It's not really great to seal wet wood, so make sure that it's dry before you use it. When you go to get the wood, make sure that you have proper adult supervision. If you are an adult, make sure that you do it in a very safe manner, as well as make sure that you're getting it from an ethical source, such as your backyard or your neighbors, or maybe a tree company might give you some free wood if you ask nicely and tell them what it's for. But do not take from local parks, forests, or trees that help spread disease, or trees that do not need pruning. Always ensure the health of the trees and the forest before you ever take any wood from a tree. And make sure that you cut it properly so you don't harm the tree. So tools that you're going to need are first safety glasses. I have yet to find my non-tinted ones, so I have to use my yellow ones. There's two different methods that you can use, one where you can use an X-Acto knife and the other where you can use a Dremel. You're also going to need a sanding sponge. You can also use a wrench or gloves to help you hold the wood so you don't cut yourself. You're also going to need a face mask. That way you can stop the dust from entering your lungs, just a safety precaution. Also a small paintbrush and Mod Podge. The sealer I'm going to be using is Mod Podge, and I'm using the dishwasher safe one, though I will not put them in the dishwasher. I don't trust the wood logs in the dishwasher. But this one is a gloss one. You can choose whatever finish you like. So for the first method, we're going to use an X-Acto knife, sanding sponge, and that's pretty much it. On a 45-degree angle, you're going to carve away the sharp edge of your log. Then you can also use the knife to cut any of the excess tiny branches that might still be left, so the little nubs. And then start sanding them so that they have like a gentle curve. It should feel not completely smooth, but smoother when you go over them. And then you should sand along the edges of the log at a 45-degree angle. The 45-degree angle has the bonus of exposing different layers of the branch, which you won't get if you strip the log itself of its bark. The bark also provides texture to the log, which can either be calming or stimulating, especially for those who may have different sensory needs, and it's just important to be mindful of that. And then when you're sanding the sides, just be gentle, not to take off too much texture, but you know your child or who you're making the logs for, so you can try also varying of different textures to see which one they gravitate to. You can kind of see the layers a little bit here, but my camera didn't focus, sorry. Method 2 is the Dremel method. The Dremel makes very easy work of uneven surfaces. It also helps make it easier and quicker to do the edging, but it's also not as precise or as straight of a cut as using maybe a carving knife or an X-Acto knife. I also highly encourage using different unique pieces of wood because you can use them in so many more ways and it just makes play a little bit more interesting. You might have to clean it up a little bit, just like I had to do here. This one actually had a little branch growing out of the top, which I found kind of interesting. I don't know, that's just me. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the finish. Again, I'm using Mod Podge. What you want to do first is lightly sand the sides to make sure that the edges are smooth and that there aren't any little pieces sticking up so no one can get slivers. Just make sure that you do seal the sides even if you don't have bark on it, because the sanding actually helps the glue or the sealant to grip onto the surface and not drip off or chip off after. It helps it grip to the wood a little bit more. You can also skip this step. You don't have to seal the logs. The benefits of sealing though is that it's easier for cleaning and easier for sanitization. Wood is a porous material, meaning that bacteria, germs, and other things such as dirt can cling and hide to inside the wood, like the little nooks and crannies. Wood also acts as a kind of like a sponge. It will hold water, and if it's not dried out properly after cleaning, it does mildew and it does mold. The sealant is not only great for preventing this from happening, but it also reinforces the wood and makes it a little less prone to being dinged up or the surface becoming rough and worn from play, which causes slivers and lots of edges of the wood to pop up so it can just chip off, especially if you keep the bark. But again, you can choose not to seal. Just make sure that the sides are very smooth and free from slivers. You can also get sealants that you can just dip them into. I personally do not prefer this method because I like to make sure that I get into the nooks and the crannies. And also I can control how thick the layer is going to be on there. I probably would also make a huge mess if I did the dip and let it drip method. But also, if you're going to choose to do that, make sure that you pick a sealer that is, or a sealant that is going to not be so thick so that they can still feel the texture of the wood, which is really important, again, like I said, for sensory reasons. I also like to use the brush method because you can thicken up certain parts of the wood, for example, the edges, so that it's harder for the bark to peel back or for the little edges to get chipped. Once you're done doing the first layer, let it dry and then write on the bottom of the log what kind of wood it is. I like to use a fine tip permanent marker, but if you write on to the wood, it can bleed because wood is porous and it just doesn't make very clean lines. It can spread out and just make it look like a mess. So just wait for the first layer to dry. Then put another layer over top of that, so that way it does not fade as easily or come off, and you know what type of wood it is. The one good thing about making these versus buying them is you can look around and find local wood and trees that grow in your area or your region and help educate children and people about what sort of vegetation is out there. For example, you could have cherry wood or maybe oak wood, spruce, etc. It helps with color variations. You can teach about that, and you can also count the rings on the edge of the logs. I really like making them myself because they can be so expensive. Some ideas for using the tree blocks can be balancing, stacking, teaching about different sizes. You can use them for mini worlds, for like fairies or dinosaurs. You can use them to understand how trees grow, so that would fall under science. You can use them, of course, for building, counting, teaching opposites, long, short, tall, small, big. You can also use mirrors and magnifying glasses to create interest and further support exploration and encouraging different perspectives. Especially when you use a mirror, you can see different angles of the object, so that's really cool. Also add a clipboard and some writing mediums like markers, pencils, etc. to encourage observation and exploration, as well as to document, and then bring in different books to further encourage study and understanding of what they're looking at, or maybe to even get inspired by adding, I don't know, building blocks or tower books. You can also use them for trees or construction, engineering, habitats, seasons, etc., as well as add small animals and figurines, blocks, trains, cars for creating cities and to teach about how cities work. There's so much that you can actually do with these, and I'm really excited to see what my child does with these blocks. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time.